just want to say a welcome. I also want to say a thank you. This is the first of 4 workshops. They're listed on the back, so please take a look at the dates. This is a brainchild, essentially, these 4 workshops, of the National Advisory Council of the School of Engineering and Applied Science. There's been a large number of contributors tonight. I just want to mention Howard Tischler, the incoming chair of the National Advisory Council, who's sitting up front, and Scott Amy have played a pivotal role in this, so I'd like to thank them very much for that. I also want to thank Jim Howard, who's the Chief Development Officer at School of Engineering and Applied Science, sitting back there, who has also played a very important role in the organization. And finally is Erin Pitts here. She's always hiding. Erin is the person who is responsible for the good food, the room, all of the logistics, so thank you very much, Erin. I'm just going to skip a long introduction of the moderator, who is sitting here, John Rollins of our business school. I'd like you can read his distinguished bio in the program. John is in the business school, as I said, but he's a great friend of engineering. He's going to be the moderator tonight, and he's going to introduce our 3 panelists. And I'd just like you to come up, John, and do that right now. Thank you very much. Oh, I have one announcement. An iPhone was picked up outside. So if you have one, if you've lost an iPhone, please see me afterwards. To claim it, you're going to have to tell me what the passcode is. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Those of you who know me know that I'm very passionate about entrepreneurship. I've been an entrepreneur my entire career, and I now teach the course in entrepreneurship here at GW. And one of the things about entrepreneurship that I think is particularly appropriate in the time of a recession like we're in today is to understand the importance of entrepreneurship in creating jobs. One of the things we learned when we study the government statistics is that somewhere around 80% of all net new jobs in the United States are created by entrepreneur-led small businesses. Important thing to remember, because we need more jobs with this 10% unemployment we have now. And GW is trying to do its part by having this 4-part seminar series, and also by having a business plan writing competition. Many of you are probably aware of it. There were a stack of these little palm cards on the table where you picked up your badges tonight, and I've got more of them here, but our business plan competition is going to be conducted this semester, and we have $30,000 in prize money for the best business plans. The deadline for entering is February 1st, and to enter, all you need is a 2-page executive summary of your idea, of your business plan. And if you go to the website, gwbizplan.com, spelled gwbizplan.com, you'll see all the information there about the rules. You can enter it as an individual or with some friends of up to 4 people on a team and compete for the $30,000 in prize money that will be awarded this semester. So I encourage you to do that, again, for yourself and for the sake of entrepreneurship and for the sake of our economy. I was also told I should remind everyone that surveys were being handed out as you came in, and you should fill those out and turn them in as you leave, as you walk down the ramp toward the door. There'll be someone there, probably Eric, collecting them. So appreciate your following up on that. What we're going to be doing here this evening is hearing from 3 C's graduates, real life stories about their successes in entrepreneurship, and with the emphasis in this seminar on the startup phase. So I want to give each of them 5 minutes to tell you a little bit about themselves, their background, what their business does, and then how, why, and when they started it, what motivated them, that sort of thing. And I'd like to start on my right, on also the right, your right on the stage, with Ashok Jha. Ashok is a great GW exemplar in that he not only got his bachelor's degree here He's the co-founder and CEO of AdNet Systems, which is a certified small business providing services to federal agencies such as NASA, the U.S. Geologic Survey, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And I think you get the idea. He has a lot of astrophysicists and earth scientists that work for him. So it's that kind of a high-tech company providing services directly to our government agencies. Ashok, do you want to take a few minutes and lead off?
Sure. Thanks. This will work from here. Thanks, Lab. Hello, everybody. It's a great privilege to be here to tell you guys how I got started. And instead of going in this challenge, all this thing, let me take it back to you when I did this all this stuff. As a lot of you here are either a student now or I have been before. So when I was in undergrad studying engineering, I was dreaming to become an engineer and do design, nothing but design, system, hardware, or whatever have you, and be part of some lab. Upon the graduation, I was fortunate enough to find a job in that field. My first job right out of college, and I have to thank GWU for that because for my education and my training. I landed a job at NASA. I think some of you have heard of them. It's a pretty prestigious institute, so I went there and worked there. And my job was to work with a lot of missions and scientific programs. And my job was to design the communication system for that and be part of that team. It was very challenging, very interesting. And part of doing so, some of this code that our team wrote or some of the hardware we designed was flowing to those shuttles or satellites, which, believe it or not, still some of them are still flying, Landsat for one. So it was very challenging and very interesting. That gig lasted for 2-3 years. Then our management got hold of that and they said, we want something else for you to do. We want you to manage people instead of just doing this technical work. Well, that didn't go well with me because I didn't want to lose those toys. It was a lot of fun. So I was faced with challenge to either manage or be the technical. So I chose the latter, meaning I wanted to be the technical. So I left NASA and went to work for another small company called Boeing. And there again, initially they gave me the same opportunity. I was doing the technical work and it was a lot of satisfaction because all you have to know 747 and you know where you work. And here I had an opportunity to work with a lot of domestic companies as well as international, which gave me a good idea of having good appreciation for how this global market works, not only business in the United States, how the market is done internationally. But then again, I was faced with the same challenge. It's horrible. That they said, now you got to be a manager. I said, but I like this. Only part I didn't like traveling. I was traveling all over the world. So I said, you got to do this. But I like both being manager as well as the technical person. Now I have to make another decision. But I also have learned in my two jobs that I saw the work from both sides. What I mean by that, when I was working for NASA, we were the customer, and the company was providing service to us or selling products. So we were consumer. We saw it from that perspective. Then working for Boeing, we were providing either parts, services, or goods, and we were actually the contractors. So I saw from both ends, and I realized something, that I've seen the work from two sides in this industry, so it would be cool and decided pushing me towards the management or to pick one path to start my own. So thus, keeping those ideas and keeping that perspective, I started AdNet. That was many, many years ago. And it has a lot of challenges came along with that. And I started with a fellow GWU graduate. We started together. It is still around, but I more or less been running this for close to 20 years now. And it has many challenges, many things. Never early on when I was sitting in the classroom here thought that I would end up doing the business. But one thing remained is, even though we're engineering student, the engineering has helped me so much. Even the business I run is based on engineering principle. You think about something, design, then implement, and then manage or operate. Well, I have used the same principle. I didn't go to any business school. I didn't take any dummy 101 class for business entrepreneur. So I have used, the only thing I know how to do is what engineering, and it has served me very well. So thank you again for this opportunity, and I will welcome if you have any questions later on. Thanks.
Good. Thank you very much, Ashok. Next, I'd like to introduce Elias Shams. And Elias has had experiences with 3 amazing businesses since he got his degree in engineering here at SEAS in 1996. In fact, his first job when he after he left GW was to work for a company called URI Systems, which after a few years, in fact, you were employee number 8, one of the very early employees of URI, and within a brief period of time, URI was acquired by Lucent for $1.3 billion. And that must have whetted Elias's appetite a little bit, because then he started his own business called TeleZoo, and we'll hear more about that later, and that lasted for nearly 7 years. And then the most recent company where he was CEO and is now a board member is a firm called Searchels. So 3 different experiences, all having to do with small business and growth of the economy. Tell us a little bit more about it.
My name is Elias Shams. I got off the boat from Iran in 1985 here. My undergrad was at the University of Maryland, electrical engineering. Then I started grad school here at GW. I mean, honestly, it was GW that got me thinking of becoming an entrepreneur. I took a couple of business courses here along with my double degree. Shortly after my graduation, I started working for this startup company, URI System in Lanham, Maryland, employee number 8. They put me in charge of, I don't know, I'm sure most of you guys have heard of this Predator drone used for war on terror. Those days, back in the 90s, it was top secret. We were supporting U.S. servicemen in Bosnia. And I was a project manager for video communication link between Bosnia and Pentagon. Now you see it in the movie Transformer and in kids magazines, but those days we weren't supposed to talk about it. No one was supposed to know anything about it. We raised about $10 million for the company by AT&T, and in 1998, when we had revenue of only $50 million, Lucent bought us for close to $1.3 billion. Shortly after, I joined another company, the Newbridge Network, which was bought by Alcatel 8 months later for $440 million. So with the stock option I cashed out from these 2 companies, the first true company that I launched on my own was TeleZoo.com. It was based on my frustration of being a telecommunication engineer. It was very difficult to identify the right solution for the network. And the TeleZoo that I launched was, in a way, was the first social networking before Facebook, before MySpace, but focusing only on telecom sector, connecting buyers and the suppliers up in telecommunication, IT buyers, talking back and forth. I raised about $5 million for the company. $2 million of it was from friends and angel investors. Part of it was from my stock option, and a portion, $3 million from venture capital. And the company I operated in 2005. Then I was hired as a CEO of a social media company in DC called Searchels. And now I'm the board member, and let's see what else. And recently I just launched, based on my experience of being entrepreneurs, living in various countries, cities, I recently launched a blog called awesomedc.com, covering technology, parties, clubbing, all the good stuff in DC. And my intention is to position Washington DC as way more than just politics and corruption that everyone all over the world is familiar with.
Thank you very much, Elias. And last, I'd like to introduce Scott Yasay. Scott also has his master's from SEAS, electrical engineering, class of 1988. And he's going to be talking about a company that he was founder of, and that he's also CEO and president of. It goes by 3 initials, FGM, and basically it's an information technology company, something that's close to my heart because all of my 4 startups in my career have also been IT companies. But this one serves the federal government very heavily and provides IT solutions using some very customized and sophisticated software that can improve the efficiency of the entire enterprise, which is not an easy thing to do nowadays. So I'll let Scott elaborate on that. Please.
Thank you. A little bit about my background. I'm one of the few people who pretty much was raised in the Washington, D.C. area, grew up in Montgomery County, Maryland, went to Grutter High School. From there, I went to James Madison University where I studied mathematics. And I got a job coming out of college back in, 1981. And the job market was pretty tough in 81, not much different than it is today. It was a tough market, and it wasn't easy getting a job. But I found a position with a small company and began my career supporting the Navy, doing submarine acoustic research. And I was able to apply my math background and learn a little bit about Fortran programming back in 1981. And back in those days, we worked with mainframe computers, so we were actually doing card decks. So I started off in a trailer, punched cards, went to a computer lab, hit a button, the iron gate would raise up, and I would hand them my card deck and come back an hour and see how things worked out. While I was at this company, my manager suggested I go pursue a master's degree. I decided to pursue it in computer science and electrical engineering here at George Washington University. And while doing that, I really got a love for programming. And so I took another job with another small company at the time, really more focused on the software engineering side of things. We were developing pretty sophisticated systems. And again, this is mid-'80s, so you have to bear with me. But we moved up to PDP-11 machines and then VAX super mini computers, and all the programming was in Fortran. But what we're doing is focus was on tracking submarines, and this is the heyday of the Cold War. So a lot of sensor data, data fusion, being able to put this information on a map and deploying it within command centers on Navy platforms. Pretty exciting work, and the company itself was only about 120 people. It was fun. The company was young. We were all programmers. We worked hard. We were mission focused, and we believed in the mission we were doing. So it wasn't uncommon to work evenings, all-nighters at the time, come in on Saturdays regularly and just kind of code and develop capability. And we got to travel to exciting places like Hawaii, London, Portugal, all kinds of cool places, Naples, Italy. So it was a great job at the time. But back in about '85, the company was acquired by a large aerospace company who I really won't name. But all of a sudden, within a year, that culture changed. It changed dramatically. Management changed. It wasn't about the mission anymore. It wasn't about the teamwork, the engineering. It was about kind of the big aerospace kind of guys coming in, and it was about making money and change the culture. And so what me and 2 of my colleagues, we decided that we wanted to try something different, and we made the jump and started our own business. And what we wanted to accomplish, our vision was really to create a company that focused on creating that culture of mission focused, really focused on the engineer, the guys in the trenches who were developing capability, and that the management of the company would grow up from the trenches. And so we started FGM in 1987. It was my last year here at GW, so it was tough times for me. I was working full-time trying to get the company started. I was taking 2 courses each semester, trying to finish up my degree in the 5-year time frame. It took me quite a while to do it. But we did it, and it was, the company is 21 years old today. We're about 250 people. We've stuck to our mission. We've been recognized by Washingtonian Magazine as one of the best places to work in Washington a number of years in a row, by some other publications as well. So I think that kind of testifies to that we achieved what we wanted to build. So that's a little bit of my background.
Congratulations. When you're starting a new business, one of the first obstacles is to raise capital. It takes money to start a new business. It takes less if you're starting a service business than if you're starting a product business. I'd like to, in fact, Elias reminded me of this when he mentioned his millions that he raised from the different sources when he founded TeleZoo. But I'd like each of the panelists to just tell us, you know, did you find the money from yourself in your own pocket, from partners that came in with you, or from outside sources? And outside sources obviously can include venture capital. As Elias mentioned, he went to part of his startup money with TeleZoo. So, Ashok, could you start and just, and we'll go down the line.
Sure. As you said, our company is service business, so we didn't have products or anything. We don't make hardware or software, we sell it as a service. So we didn't have to raise so much capital, and we were fortunate that when I was still technical, I knew how to do this thing. So a lot of demand for my service. So the day I quit the job here next year, a lot of people were asking me to go provide the service. So right away, I started as consulting. We just have to put some money in the bank for the line of credit, all these things. So me and my partner put some money, like a couple $1,000 each, and we were building from day one. We were the very fortunate one, and I was one of the hot commodity at that time. A lot of people wanted my service. Nobody wants it now, but that time, technically, a lot of people wanted it. So I didn't have to worry about that. So I can say that from day one, when I started the company, company made the money.
Profitable from the get-go.
Yeah, which is very unusual, you know, so I didn't have to experience those.
You can only do that with a service business.
Absolutely.
Although eBay did it, they had a business model that enabled them to do it from the beginning, but it's unusual for a product company to do
Yes,
that.
yes. So, so mine was not, not major challenges.
Good. Scott?
Yeah, my experience is pretty much similar. I think back in the time we started our company, we wouldn't even have a clue as how to go out and acquire capital through ventures or private equity or anything like that. So we basically, there was 3 of us that started the company, and it's the name FGM. I think we each put about $30 into the company at the time. So we were capitalized at $90. A lot of the way we funded the company is not uncommon to what Ashok said, is that we went out and got some consulting gigs because we knew some people, and we had some unique capabilities. So we would consult maybe from 7 a.m. in the morning to 12, work on the business side from 12 to 6, and I would go to class from 6 to 8 and then come back that night and work some more. So it's really sweat equity for us, and that's the fortunate thing with services companies. You can do that, but it's hard. I mean, it takes a lot of time and energy, but you have to stay focused on that you can do it.
And the story Scott is telling is a very common one, that when you're starting a new business in the service area, you can do it while you keep your current day job, or in his case, current student job, and then work on it nights, weekends, that sort of thing, and get it launched before you give up that paycheck, or get your degree, as you did in your case. Elias, you want to elaborate a little bit more on this same issue?
It's all about contacts. I mean, you could have an ass-kicking product, but the context really plays a big time in the equation. I wasn't really in fundraising process of the Newbridge and Uri system, but TeleZoo and Searchels. With TeleZoo, I remember I had stock option cashed out from my last 2 companies, so I put in $200K myself. But then I also remember I raised remember this is the pre-bubble. I raised $150,000 from friends by just selling $1 per share to them. Then I also raised another round of 1.7 million from another angel investors. Then I brought the company with that money, roughly about $2 million, a little bit over $2 million. I made the company practically generating revenue, where no company were making no internet company does they were making any money. But since we generated revenue, once we got some traction, and once the news went out that we have revenue, I didn't have to go through after the investors. The investors came after us. We dealt with Lazard Venture based in Bethesda. I also remember they wanted to give us they gave us $5 million, and I said, no, I want $3 million. It was not that good. With that total of $5-6 million, I gave up about 15% of the company. But with the second company, with Searchals, I gained a lot of contact during the Telezoo days. So once I got involved with Searchals, it was much less challenging. All I had to do is pick up the phone, call the friends. I need 100, I need 200 here. I raised roughly about $2 million from just 2 people that they knew me. I think, yeah, definitely you need to have a strong contacts. I know many of my friends, not many of them, a couple of them, they have a fantastic product. You don't know anyone, you don't know the right contact, you're going to have a tough time to raise funds.
Could you elaborate, Elias, on that one example you gave of someone that wanted to invest $5 million, and you said no, only $3 million? Explain that.
With $5 million, they would have taken more of the company.
Right. Dilute your personal ownership would have been diluted.
Yeah, exactly. At that time, really, the product with the $2 million angel funding from family and friends, I had already built the product. I was already generating revenue, so all I needed, additional fund to market the product. And based on the calculation that I did, $3 million was even way more than enough. So if I hadn't launched the product, if I was at the ground zero, yes, I would take that $5 million. But it was good days of late 90s, early 2000. I could afford with $3 million funding from them.
Sure. Very good. Thank you all. A related question I wanted to ask, and that is about other obstacles you faced when you were starting your business, aside from raising the money. And clearly there weren't huge obstacles for Ashok or for Scott because they were starting service businesses. So I want to hear what the other major obstacles were. Ashok, you want to start off? We'll just go down the line again.
Sure. It's all about in your service business, any business, as you said, is getting the business, getting the contact, and having people to buy your service. In my case, it's a little different since we started too young. I don't look young now. I'm not young, but at that time it was, and believe it or not, it was viewed against me. I will go and ask the people and do this, that. They wanted to hire me, not give me a business. I have to overcome that. That took a long time to do that because they didn't think that I can really have the grasp of business. And with that, I didn't have the contact, not what I have now. So it took a long time to build the contact because you're only going to get business through this somebody knowing you and some reference. And you can only, even though I had great skills, but at a given point, I only can provide service to one customer, but I was looking to serve many, and that needed the contact relationship. So this was taking a long time to get that. Once word of mouth got there, one of the past performers or the services they got, they heard about me. But then it's become easier. But that was the longest thing for us to do, is able to establish ourselves.
Sure. That's a very common issue to face. Scott?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously, capital was one that we've already talked about. Is having the cash, contacts, and having that network is important. And I won't kind of elaborate on that again. But one of the really difficult things, and when I started my business, it was pre-internet, so there was a lot of things I didn't know, and it was hard to get information about in terms of how you just run a business, start a business. I mean, I think some of that may be easier today because of the internet and the availability to information. But obviously, we were trying to form a business to support the U.S. government, specifically the military intelligence communities, and the regulations in that business are tremendously difficult to navigate in terms of trying to establish yourself, get contracts. The fact that we were working in this environment, we also needed security clearances, and it's really difficult because it's a little bit of a chicken and the egg scenario in terms of working in this business environment. In order to get security clearances, you have to have a sponsor, meaning you have to have a contract. Well, you can't get the contract unless you have the clearances in place. So it's a really difficult road to hoe to get established. The good news in this community, though, is that once you get knocked down some of those, what I call barriers to entry, it gives you some strategic advantage too, because once you're in some of these communities, you've got capability, you build up a past performance record, and they know you and that you deliver quality work, you've got good people that work for you, you can really get going. But there's a lag time in terms of that to build up that acceleration and to build up that speed to build the business. So it took us, I would say, a good 3 years to really kind of get established, get all the pieces in place. But once we did, and we persevered and were patient, then we really started experiencing some good growth, and we're able to diversify and grow the business. But it does take some time, especially in the kind of nature of the work that we were doing to get going.
The greatest obstacle in my days, I mean, even though contacts are really important, but that wasn't my problem. I had enough contacts, I had cash. The greatest obstacle for me was a pricing model. The product that we created, this was my first company that from ground zero I was involved. I couldn't figure out the pricing model. I remember we hired multiple firms.
Is this TeleZoom?
TeleZoom, yes, in 1999. We hired some firm, but since the product was brand new, even the firm couldn't, the consulting firm, they couldn't help us with the pricing model. It took us a year to figure out the right pricing model. And the other obstacle was finding the right CEO, executive management. When I started TeleZoom, I was the CTO and the founder. I really didn't have experience being a CEO, especially when you land $5 million in your bank account. So I went through hell to just find the CEO, and we found the CEO. Here's another challenge. Our investors found the CEO. I was honest to them. I was honest with them. I said, look, I can't interview a CEO. I don't know what to ask them. So I let the investors handle the interview. And unfortunately, a year and a half later, we learned that it was the wrong CEO. So the board had to fire him, and they put me, but that a year and a half gave me enough time to learn how to act like a CEO, what to do, how to think like a CEO. So then I became the CEO of the company. So in a nutshell, for me, it was the pricing model and the right executive running the show, execute the company.
Good. Great. 3 great answers. Thank you. Let me toss out one more question, a little bit different one. And this is really for the students who are here in the audience with us today. What advice would you give GW students who want to start their own business? How do they go about it? Ashok, do you want to take that one first?
Sure. It's really, I mean, if you want to do business, first of all, you have to be honest with yourself, in my opinion. Not everybody is cut out for that. A lot of my friends started the business because they saw me doing that, and they thought they can do it, they like it. It's not easy. It takes different personality, different kind of tolerance, different kind of ability. It's not all that and is smarter than smartest kid in the class. Nothing to do with that. It's I can only speak for the service business because that's what experience that I have. The service business is all about relationship. You have to build the relationship and you have to maintain it. And your people skill has to be really, really good. Because you're going to be not that somebody you are dealing with today and when you're done, you move on. But you never know when you're going to need that person. So the people skill is great. It has to be really great. You have to build the relationship. You have to earn their trust and maintain your network. It all comes down to that. So if you have any interest in going into business for this service, start thinking about that and be very sure, very focused what you want to do. Not many things. You want to be, in our case, we provide science engineering work, and we didn't go too much into doing building hardware, although I had some experience with that. We stayed with the scientific side of the house and stayed on that course. It has advantages and disadvantages, but if we dilute too much, I won't be able to gain the same success that I have today. So.
Great answers. Yeah, you have to know yourself, what you want to do, what you have a passion for. You have to keep your network in place and focus. Those are 3 keys of a successful entrepreneur.
it's hard to follow Ashok on these because I had similar ideas, but I'll try to go in some different directions as well. I mean, obviously, being an entrepreneur does take a different type of personality, probably. Obviously, you got to be comfortable with some level of risk. I know when starting our business, there were times that you'd wake up in the middle of the night wondering what the heck you're doing. You know, you're married, you have a wife who's pregnant, and there's no paycheck coming in, and you start thinking. And the other thing too, don't be surprised if you'll get pushback from friends from the other direction too, telling you, you know, how long are you going to keep at it? You know, maybe it's time to quit. So they're going to push back on you that way. I think building the contacts is important. Part of it too is develop your vision. Really think about what you want to build and make sure it's something you're passionate about, because I think passion is important along the way. You don't want to be stuck going after something that is not going to, you know, something you want to wake up in the morning and really jump on. So I think passion about an idea, developing a vision, and then ultimately it's all about selling and communicating, because you have to sell all the time as an entrepreneur. You have to sell to potentially investors your idea so that they'll invest money. You have to sell it to people who you want to bring on as employees. And one of the most difficult things to do is to bring on the right management team, as we pointed out here. You want to build it, you want to be able to go out there, sell your idea, get people who want to come in and buy into the idea and work for you and have that same passion. And then the customers. You've got to be able to sell to customers all the time. So I think one of the things you really need to, and maybe it's a trait about starting your own business, is you've got to have a vision. You've got to be able to sell that vision all the time.
Good. Excellent. Vision and selling, critical ingredients. Elias?
Don't start your business with your spouse. Regardless how much you guys love each other, it's going to go down to the toilet. So don't do that. And the other advice I can give you, most of entrepreneurs, they start this, they bring a couple of their good friends as part of it to help them to basically to help them to execute the company. Identify, regardless how much of a buddy you guys are, how much you guys like each other. If you feel like that individual, not necessarily your friend, identify the people who create politics in the company. Identify the people who are like really they have the potential to create tension among the employee. Get rid of them right away, regardless. You guys know each other for 20 years. So I went through both of these with my first year in the company. The third one is very general. I don't know when you guys graduating, but I think based on historically, it's a perfect timing right now. I know the economy is bad, but it's a perfect time for people to become entrepreneurs. If you go back, some of the major companies, Microsoft, GE, McDonald's, Johnson & Johnson, they all started when the economy was very poor. And the fact that the job market really sucks. And if you're thinking of once you graduate you're going to get a job, I don't mean to be pessimistic, but it's bad. It's really bad. So think of a niche idea and use the power of social media. I mean, I remember my days, out of that $5 million that I raised, close to 1.5 million just went to advertising. If I had the power of Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn those days, I could have saved that 1 point. Right now, I mean, that awesome DC launched blog that I launched, I haven't done any marketing effort for it. Maybe just use Facebook and Twitter. The traffic that I'm generating for this just simple blog is equivalent of $500,000-$600,000 that I spent back in the early 90s when there was no social media. So it's really good timing to basically think of it. If you have a great idea, use your contacts, use the power of social media, and trying to build something, create economy, employ others. That's the three advice I can give you guys.
Great. Terrific. In fact, the point you made, Elias, about starting in a recession is one that's statistically borne out. There have been a lot of articles written this year, in 2009 I should say, about the amazing number of new companies historically, including all the ones he mentioned and many, many others, that started during downturns in the economy. May seem counterintuitive, but it's a great time to start out because everybody's down, and then you can rise with the rising tide along with all the others as the economy improves. One other item that is probably is valid in terms of correlating with the successful startup as any other single item, it's having written a business plan before you start your business. There's put on paper exactly what your plans are and what you want to do. And obviously, the success that that's given so many companies is what we're trying to encourage here at GW by sponsoring this business plan writing competition and giving away the $30,000 in prize money. Because that really does form a good, solid foundation for any new business. I'm going to ask 2 more questions, and I'm going to turn it over to the audience. So start thinking about questions you all want to ask yourselves. My question right now for the panel is, what skills, specific skills, do you consider most critical for success in entrepreneurship and small business management? And those 2 terms really go together, entrepreneurship and small. Entrepreneurship is starting the firm, but then once you start it, you're managing a small business. So you want to start off again, Asha?
The most critical thing, I think, as a small business, your ability to communicate. The small business is like a culture. Whoever starts the business, they have to have this ability to convince the people who are working with them. The management team, they have to sell their concept, their idea. If you're not convincing the team, you're not going to be able to sell anything. It doesn't matter how good product you have. So you got to have the buying in from your core group. And as I said, it's like a cult. They have this like religion. They have to believe into that. So you have to have this ability. And a lot of us don't realize that we have the ability. And those who don't have that will not succeed until we start seeing that. And if you cannot communicate properly to your customer or to your team, you're not going to be able to say what you want. The vision is not going anywhere. You don't have any following. And your customer doesn't know what you're talking about. You're vague, and you're not going to get anywhere. So in my opinion, a strong communication skill and your ability to convince people and be persuasive is very, very important.
Scott?
Yeah, as I said before, I mean, to me, it was about vision and selling, which are key skills that you need to have. And I would even step back and maybe take that a level up. And it really comes about some level of leadership. A good leader is someone who can, again, establish a vision, set a course. But what really is important when you set the vision too is you don't want to do it in an ivy tower. Part of it is, I think, collaboration is a big part of it. What I see as a good leader, especially in an entrepreneurial environment. As you bring people into your company, you want to make them part of the vision setting, make them part of the strategic planning process, create that buy-in. In fact, what you really want is you want to hear their ideas and their thoughts and make that part of the vision and strategy that you develop so that they're then bought into it, they understand where you're going. And then from a management perspective, don't put it in a drawer. You set a vision, you set a strategy, revisit regularly, track it, execute it, and then more importantly, don't be afraid to change course. I mean, we're living in a rapidly changing world. Things will always change. What you might have set as a course 3 months from now, 3 months ago, as you look at it now, it might be completely off base. So change. But stay on top of the strategy, make your team part of developing the strategy, make them part of executing the strategy, but make sure you have a strategy.
Your point about revisiting the business plan periodically is so important. I had one company I started when I was 25 years old that I literally had for 30 years, and we started on punch cards, just like you were talking about earlier when you started your business. And then by the end, we were on the internet. And in between there, we went to time sharing, to mini computers, to DOS, to Windows, and then to the internet. And if you don't do a new business plan periodically, not a business plan to raise money, but a business plan to guide yourself and your employees, you can't survive those kinds of changes. And technology businesses of the kind you're describing, Scott, require that. You've got to revisit the business plan to figure out what you're going to do differently with each change that occurs. Elias, you want to finish up?
Yeah, they both already covered, you guys covered what I had in mind, but one thing I'd like to add is, yeah, definitely communication skills, management skills. What I'd like to add is, as a startup, make sure that practically those 4 or 5 people you're involved, all of you guys have a good skills to use the social media, because it's really important to get the message out. You don't want to, due to lack of funding, you don't want to hire somebody just do your social media activity. So trying to learn how to use LinkedIn, how to use Facebook, how to use Twitter. I know still a lot of people, they think it's useless, but I've been using it for the past 7-8 months. It's really powerful. I'm very impressed. The example that I can tell you is that the blog that I recently launched. This less than 2 months of effort using social media for free is equivalent of what I did spend $1.5 million in early 2000. So stay on top of the social media.
That's the hot thing. My last question, and then we're going to open it up to the audience. Could you guys just sort of step back for a minute? If you had it to do all over again, what are the lessons learned? What would you do differently? Just looking at it from 30,000 feet and in hindsight. Monday morning quarterback time. Ashok?
Sure. Many things. But the top of the list is the first thing that, as I said, I started maybe a little early. Have some focus. Knew what the market was, where I wanted to go. I don't think I had a good business plan early on. It took time to develop one. And as I said, it was evolving. But I have started business with a good business plan, have started, and also had some, more money to hire some marketing and sales people. I would have been easier, but again, we were not generating that probably to cover many mortgages but mine. So it's having a good business plan. If I had that before and I have to start to look at that, how we would go and how we would attack this customer, the businesses that we were trying to get, that would have definitely helped. So I think the last couple of years trying to develop that, that would have been my top of the list.
Good. Thank you. Scott?
Yeah, when I started my company, I started with 2 other partners, and I'm happy to say that after 20-some years, that the 3 of us are still in business together, and we're still friends, and we still talk to each other, which is, it's a lot like a marriage, and it's even more complicated when you have 3 people, different people working together. But from our standpoint, if I look back, and believe me, I think the world of these guys, but we were all computer programmers, the 3 of us, so we all had the same skill set, the same interest, and I think one of the things that I would probably relook at, just from a pure business standpoint, is you'd want to probably start with partners that bring different things to the table. You might want someone who really understands the sales and marketing side, someone who understands the management side, and then maybe somebody who understands the technology side or something like that. But it was a real struggle for us because I ended up having to go down the management route because the other guys wanted to stay technical, and it was a school of hard knocks for me because I really didn't have that background. The other thing, I guess, a lesson learned for us is, we really focused on delivering excellence to our customer, and we thought all along that if you delivered to your customer, and you delivered well, you delivered excellence, and you delivered value, that the business would perpetuate. But what we found, and it was a tough lesson, is that that's not always the case. There's competitors out there, it's a very competitive marketplace, and they can come in, and even though you're doing a great job, you're delivering value, that they can go out there, reshape something, and take the business away from you. So one of the things that we learned is that we really need to focus on business development, and what I mean by that is really gathering competitive intelligence, knowing what's really happening, not just in the trenches, but outside the trenches with our customer and our customers' bosses and everything like that, and what the competition's doing, because it's not just about delivering high quality and excellence. You can still lose the business. So focus operationally, but also have that kind of intelligence aspect so you know what's going around in the marketplace around you.
Excellent advice. Elias?
I wouldn't nickel and dime with the investors who want to give you money. Like, now that I just thought about it, if I had got that $5 million they wanted to give me, and I said $3 million, it would have been it would have been more productive. It would have been less hassle for me to focus on the technical stuff that I was doing. Number one thing I can think of, if you have investors who want to give you money, don't think that, oh, okay, it's going to take away more money, more part of the company. Back in late 90s, you could afford it, but now, I don't know how long it's going to stay like this. If you have an idea, if you're dealing with the VC, don't nickel and dime with the VC. Just take the money. I mean, really depending on, I'm not saying just give away all part of the company, but trying to think of that expression, you don't want to have, how does that go? A small percentage of something is always better than
A large percentage of nothing.
right. Yeah. So I learned that lesson as well. So yeah, don't nickel and dime with it.
That's very good advice. In fact, in my entrepreneurship class that I teach, the students always say, what is the guideline? How much money should I raise? And my answer usually is you do your cash flow projection and figure out how much that tells you you need, and then double. In other words, don't nickel and dime. Raise some extra money, because there are always some variabilities in your plan that you cannot anticipate. So if you raise twice as much as you think you need, hopefully that will be enough. If it's not, you've got a problem.
When you go public company, I mean, obviously there's more pressure. When public, Newbridge was already public when I joined. I remember the executive management, the amount of stress they were under. So I don't have experience of taking my own company public, but yeah, as you mentioned, right now it's not a good idea to even thinking of taking any company public.
Anybody else want to comment?
I met with a friend of mine this morning who took his company public back in November, and it was actually a relatively small IPO. They only raised about $90 million. I think one of the things with going public and the challenges is you want to go big if you go public. Because of the amount of oversight, there's a huge cost in just going public and then just all the reporting requirements that come with being a public company, and also a lot of transparency. The other thing is the risk, I think, in terms of going public too, is that as a private company, we can, I believe, we can be more long-sighted or look out more into the future, not necessarily be a captive of meeting quarterly projections and having to answer to street analysts. I mean, they're going to be looking and following your company, and once you put something out there, and if you don't make that number, you get severely penalized, and sometimes your focus then becomes, I got to hit that quarterly number, and then you may lose sight about what you're trying to really build in the long term.
Are they happy they went public?
So far, but they've only been at it for about 2 months.
Okay, a question in the back.
Thank you very much for organizing this wonderful event. My name is Alexander, and I'm in the graduate program in computer science department, so yet another program. I have 2 questions for you. First is getting into entrepreneurship, and the second one is hiring the right people. So going to the first question, you advise students to go into entrepreneurship, but my question for you is, given your extensive background that you actually went and got a job and you worked for some time in your jobs and then you decided to start entrepreneurship, would you advise students to go directly, the graduate, to go directly to entrepreneurship, or going to get some experience before continuing and going boldly starting up on their own? And the second question is about once you start, how do you find the right talent, the right number of people with the right skills to start working? You mentioned about finding the CEO, but what about the people that actually do the legwork rather than the management?
To answer your first question, I'm glad you brought it up. It really depending on the product, how much demand is for that product, your personality, your skills. I advise everyone, if you can afford, work for a couple of companies first, one or two company for a few years, then get involved with your own company. That might work out, but I've had experience with both of them. The company who work for a few individuals work for a company and they couldn't execute their own company, and vice versa. So it's just really depending on your personality comes to the equation big time. How your communication skill, as you mentioned. These set of skills, some people it's in their DNA, some people know they got to work for a couple of companies to learn how to talk, to communicate with people, how to take order from the boss, or how to convey the messages. So it's a complicated, there's no easy answer for it. There are, like, for example, what's his name, the founder of Facebook, this was his first job. Look where he is today. And as for your second question, I'm sorry, what was your second question again? Oh, start, this goes, I think I already covered that. Right now, it goes back to the social media thing. Through social media, start establishing relation and connection with people with the like-minded people in your field. And attend networking events, places like these seminars, and it's just keep on meeting people. And hopefully by the time you're ready, you have people lined up. But as I said, regardless how close you get to these people, regardless how long you know them, once you get involved with your company, if you get a gut feeling, you think that individual is going to be a troublemaker, or you have to be ready to basically get rid of it or her.
In my opinion, when you go to the computer science engineering school, they don't teach you how to run a business, how to start a business. What you learn is very technical, and to use that, and that's the training we have. I'm not knocking the schooling system here, but has worked good for me. If it was not for that, I wouldn't be able to accomplish much. So it does not give you any appreciation and any understanding of how the businesses are run, how things are happening, what is the management and what the HR payroll, there are a lot of things in there. So going to work is absolutely a good idea. I do that, go work somewhere. Also helps you build a network, get some money, and you're starting a business, you will get money. And unless you have your own trust in a event setup, you're not going to have money. You got to build your own, or you have some rich uncle around, they're going to lend you money. So it's starting a business right out of the college or getting a degree is a really, really hard way to do. People have done it, and there are a lot of examples, but actually some. But for every one success, you will find 100, if not more, that is failed. So that's something that I would not be my advice, and that's I didn't do that. As far as the hiring talented people, well, there's a lot involved in there, because if somebody, you see the resume, everything looks good. The person interviews very well, and then you hire that person, and then it still doesn't work out. So there is some luck involved. But being that said, you really have to know what you're looking for. And really, really know, very specific what you're looking for, what you want this person to do. And and again, I would say be really honest with yourself that you want that person, and see if this person fulfill that. And if you think it's a reach that this person cannot do that, and if your gut tells you it's wrong, then it is wrong. So hiring is as I said, it's a luck involved, because somebody comes really good on the paper, interprets very well. 1 week later, you say, boy, that's a colossal mistake. But it's too late to let somebody go. It's much easier to hire than fire, even though you have that authority. But trust me, it's a lot more fun to have somebody bring somebody in an office and I'm giving you a raise or giving you a bonus, or they tell the same, you're done. So you really have to do a lot of legwork before you hire somebody.
Anything else, Scott?
I'll talk about on the hiring side. I think that's definitely it was a real challenge for me when we started the business, is making that first hire and trying to, because I don't think that was something I was particularly skilled at, in terms of trying to assess people and their talents and so on. And it's something that I hopefully developed over the years. But my advice on staffing is, obviously you want to you want to build your network within the industry, so you know people, and you know people who know people, and really assess what it is that you need, what skills that you don't have that you need in the company. And the second part that's hard, and I'm not, is I think we've talked a little bit about it, but it's finding the right people with the right values and character. Because as you build a company, part of your company, your culture is a value system, and you want to have some level of shared values. So if it's about, treating customers right, I think all of us tout the same levels of values, honesty, ethics, and things like that. But you really want to try to dig down and find the people who share those values, because that'll hopefully protect you from some of those disruptive personalities coming in. You may find somebody who's, a great finance guy, but if he cheats the system, it's not going to serve you well in the long term. So, try to really dig down and look beyond the skill set and try to dive down into what's the real character behind these people, especially those early hires.
I could also add that it's not too early to start your networking right now with students. One great case study I'm familiar with, you may know the company Enlightened, IT contractor, very large company, headquartered here in DC, was started by 3 GW grads. After they graduated, they each went to different companies, worked, got experience. They each went back later, got master's degrees. Then they came together after that and started Enlightened. And they complemented each other. They'd known each other since GW days, and they're very successful working together. So they preach the sermon of start now as a GW student and meet other people and start thinking. Next question. Want to bring the microphone down here in front?
I just want to add on a question. So you talked about hiring. I'm wondering, even in the earlier stages, when you're sort of refining the idea, forming the business plan, and finding your sort of core collaborators, what do you look for in those people, and how do you see that is going to be a successful collaboration?
Mine always looked at personality. Because the company was called Telezoo, Zoo of Telecommunication. I remember one of the questions that I asked, because I needed everyone to be like, relaxed, cool. I even asked them if they can make a monkey sound. I asked everyone. And the one who didn't, were feeling comfortable, I didn't hire them. And the one who did, I hired them, the only one. And the CEO that wasn't interviewed by me, he was the only wrong person in the company, plus a friend of mine. But that wasn't part of the interview process. I knew from University of Maryland. But trying to give you a short answer, personalities. There are a lot of factors here, but personality to me is number one. You got the wrong person in the company with the wrong personality. You could have a fantastic product, fantastic company. That individual with the wrong personality could basically hurt the business.
Add on, I think part of it is you as an entrepreneur need to establish what your vision is and what you're trying to build. And you want to make sure that when you bring those initial folks in, that you really share your vision and really dive down and make sure that they want to go after that vision as well, that it's important to them, that they buy into it. And it is also important that, from a personality side, that you're building a team, so you want good teamwork. And they don't necessarily all have to be friends, but they need to be able to work together in a collaborative way. And that conflict is okay in a team, but you need to have good, people who can work through it in a professional manner to drive to, a consensus decision that you're going to go forward on. So I think it's important that you communicate that vision, make sure that you're getting people who are passionate and bought into the vision that you're trying to build, especially those early ones, and that make sure that you've identified what your gaps are in terms of skills or needs that you're trying to fill. Because again, you don't want to just hire a bunch of people like you with the same talents as you, because that's not getting you anywhere.
I agree with that, but one of the things you asked is what is early on, so I'm assuming you meant that you're starting the company, what you're looking for, the hiring, what your criteria is. Of course, the personality and ethics and all this is very important. The one very, very important part is you already have some people existing in the company. The chemistry has to be there. This person that you're bringing on cannot be a tip the scale or be a bad apple. It has to fit with that. So you have to be judge that if this person is going to be a good fit in this organization. I don't mean just the work, but it's extremely important, like the first thing. Fitting in the personality and all these things and how it is a small office. It's the early part of the business is a small group and it's, they're not getting along. You will see that. As it gets bigger, then you're hiring a programmer. What do you hear? The guy sitting in the corner writing the program doesn't want to associate with that. Boy, do I know I have a lot of the NASA scientists doing that. But that's a different story. But you're bringing somebody in HR that he or she needs to interact with the people, different personality, and they have to see that it fits or not. So chemistry has been very important for that job, and see how much interaction that person has to do with other groups. So yeah, that is very good.
The thing is, if that individual really doesn't have the right skill or he or she is not perfect, certain skills, once the individual get involved part of the company, they can learn. But when you got the wrong personality, there's nothing you can do. I mean, nothing's going to change. The skills can be the other employee, they can help her out or help him out. Personality, no. Wrong personality, no.
Pass the microphone. Yeah, thank you.
All right, quick question in regards to the best sources that you know of the bird's eye view of the population of the market, and also to determine who owns which portion of the market share.
Market share of what?
Of population, whatever your population that you're trying to serve.
Your target market.
I'll start a little bit. I think it obviously depends on what business you're trying to build because there's tons of resources out there in terms of market research. I know that. It can range from a number of things. I'm not a marketing person per se, but I mean, one level, and there's cheap ways to expensive ways. I mean, the cheapest way is obviously do research on the internet as far as available kind of first level data. I think the second level is, we talked about building a network, but build a network, and if you're going to, go in a specific industry, get involved in some industry associations early on, even before you start the business, and network out there. Go to those events, meet people, meet some of the leaders, and so on. You'll get some insight on what some of the trends are, who the players are. There's a lot of valuable information there, who potential hires are down the road. So network within industry associations, and then I think from some of the higher end, and I actually have never done this, is you actually go out and pay for market research data. So I really can't comment on that. Most of our stuff is really kind of what I'd say grassroots marketing, getting out there, networking, talking to people in the industry, talking to competitors. I think competitors are a great way because sometimes your competitors are your partners one day and your competitors the next day.
Pass it behind you. Thank you.
Yes, I was wondering, what has been your thought process as it relates to your seeking mentors in building or encouraging advice in building your business? So, who has mentored you, each of you, in helping you form your own business?
You want the names? Or
Well, more the character. What are you looking for? How your thought process and how you sought out mentors or somebody to help you?
I had the same challenge. I got help by the law firm that we had hired. One of my great friends was working for the law firm. They helped us to, actually they were the one who helped us to find an advisory board member, the board member, the company. So that's how we found them. Is that what you're asking, or you're asking what do we look for?
What are you looking for? And it's certainly a private answer. But how you saw it, how you found it?
Well, it was through, it goes back to what three of us already agreed, the contacts. It was through the contacts, and all four of them, they were in the same field. They had expertise in telecommunication, they had expertise in, one of them had expertise in the media for my PR. So these were the criteria I was looking for.
Did any of the three of you have a specific mentor in the business you were in before you started your new entrepreneurial startup? that inspired you to do it?
Well, in the service business, mentorship is not that easy to get unless you are an SBA mentorship, mentor program, if you're a part of that. Because the company who can mentor you in the same business, they are one step removed, they're much larger. If they are much larger, they don't have time for you. They don't give you time on the day. Or if they have, you're not that large, you are a competition, or you will be soon. So they're not going to give you a great secret, because we're not selling, we're not Xerox that we came up with something that you need, or come up with a Microsoft Office. So everybody's trying to sell the same business, the same kind of skill service. So it was hard to get mentors. However, I had one, and mine was my first boss at NASA. And in a little while, when I was, at that crossroads, he told me when I left NASA and I started working at Boeing, and I was still in contact with it. As I said, contact is very important. And he told me, do what you're best at it. I said, I don't know. He said, you're good at both of them. Why don't you go, do it for your own? So that has stuck with me. So I will say, I will give him a lot of praise. I still do. Say he was a him that he really encouraged me to do it this way.
I had, I guess in my first job, I had a mentor as well who was my boss. And I think the main things that I learned from him was really about, let me give a little background. He was a retired Army Green Beret who served in Vietnam. And the man was a lot about courage and valor, but he was really about values, ethics, and character. And I think I learned a lot about him in terms of business that, things like ethics and character really matter in the long run, because, again, it's about, in the services business or any business, it's about your reputation, your name. If you become a company that loses that, one of the things he taught me, I guess, was that it takes a lifetime to build a solid reputation, but it takes about a minute to lose a reputation. And so that's one of the things that we always work on is ethics first. It may cost us money in the short term, but in the long term, it's going to pay off down the road, because you don't want to be a firm that's known as someone who's less than, the highest ethical standards.
Now that I listened to the answer, no, you get the question right. No, I didn't have any mentor. It was just the opportunity, the market, everything was just fitting. There was no mentor for me.
I think Scott's point about leadership is key, because doing the right thing is what leadership is about. Ethics, values, culture, whereas management, in contrast to leadership, management is doing things right. Leadership is doing the right thing. And you can't really learn leadership in a vacuum. You need mentors and relationships.
Yeah, one of the things that we do is, my mentor, his name was Robert Feely. In fact, we actually have a leadership award at the company we give out every year, which is called the Robert Feely Leadership Award, and it's based on those parameters that we define.
Who's next? Go ahead.
How do you know that you were at that breaking point where you were just about to take that big plunge and go out and quit your job and go tell your wife and you're not no longer employed? What conditions were there that made you take this big risk?
I'll tell you my story. And mine was when after the company that I was working for was acquired by the large aerospace company. We were under a lot of pressure to make a software delivery, and I know that there were about 3 of us, and we worked all weekend and we worked all night on Sunday night. And what happened is we were drinking some coffee near the quote executive area of the building, and one of us forgot, it might have been me, to turn off the coffee maker. And so Monday morning, the coffee maker exploded and basically made a huge mess in the, quote, executive coffee room. However, we worked all weekend and probably put about 48 straight hours in and made the deliverable. But all we got on Monday afternoon was a memo telling us that we were no longer allowed to use the executive coffee room. At that point, I knew that the company was no longer the kind of company I wanted to work for, and that pushed me over the edge.
It's a function of several variables. My story, you already heard part of it. The market was very good. The money was there. But to get into more details, as a network engineer, one of the challenges I had every time I wanted to work on a project, to build a network, I had to deal with multiple vendors, get them to come to our office, present to us what they have. The challenge, the problem with that process was, although most of them they offer a similar thing, but they use different acronyms to confuse the hell out of the buyer. And the process was 3-4 months. So usually get Cisco, the other company, they come, they spend roughly 3-4 months just to identify the right solution. So I figured, why not just building a website, inviting all these telecom company, building a database, and get all these telecom company enter their product specs into this web-based account, and then our engine would get this information, normalize it, and stacking them up against each other for the IT buyers. So this way, you as an IT buyer, you could have gone to Telesma and say, I'm looking for a router that does this, support this kind of protocol, blah, blah, blah. Within seconds, since the database was populated by Cisco, Lucent, Nortel, you name it, when they existed those days. Within seconds, you could get all these products right next to each other, and then you could, there was a link called RFQ, request for code, or request for a proposal, and it automatically would go back to the company. And the moment we launched it, it was no-brainer. I remember the first check we got from Cisco before we even get the funding. $150,000 check came from Cisco. And that was the time I didn't know how to price this out. I just came out a number out of my, and it worked. But when later on, when we realized the smaller company are on the equation besides Cisco, we had to come up with a more robust revenue model.
Next question.
I'm Yogesh Patel. I graduated from engineering school here, and I have a small systems integration company, and we just received our 8A certification from the government, so it's kind of targeted to people that do federal business. I was wondering, have you taken advantage of any of the SBA 8A certification type programs to develop business, and if so, how? I've had trouble getting my first 8A contract, so how should I go about that, and also participate in kind of the Entrepreneurship program for the federal government?
We took advantage of 8A. We graduated from 8A, and let me tell you that just getting 8A does not give you a license, or does not guarantee you that you're going to get work. And it gives you some leverage. I know a lot of companies who got 8A and graduated from 8A without getting an 8A contract. So it also comes down to what you target, what you're looking for, what do you need the business plan, and who is your, if you're working in, I don't know which agency you're working at, I would pick one, labor. And if you're trying to get an 8A contract at NOAA, that's not going to work. So you got to target the agency that you are in there, because that's where your first 8A work is going to come from where you are today. And you need to find a company which is there with graduating 8A or has graduated to them as your mentor. But the one who is out of 8A right now, they're not really interested in working with you, but the one who has graduated, those are the companies who want to hook up for that, because their contract is technically complete. They cannot bid that, so they need some a company that they can go with them and flip it over. So that's where I would start. But again, it comes down to having 8A helps, but there's no guarantee. It still comes down to marketing, knowing where the work is, contact, relationship, and again, the 8A works somewhat from every agency, but where you think you can get work. Just having 8A from as use the example, labor is not going to guarantee you work at NASA or no. I will target the agency where I am.
Go ahead, right here, since you got the mic, then we'll go back here.
Hey, how's it going? I'm Ian, and my question is in terms of raising capital. Let's say you actually have an idea, and you want to raise capital for the idea. But in order to raise capital for the idea, people actually want a prototype. But to have the prototype, you actually need capital. So it's kind of like a chicken and an egg problem. And my other question is, how do you show that this idea is feasible, and it's not just buying the sky?
How the idea is what?
It's feasible.
Okay. It's friends. It's a network of friends. Today, there is no way you can raise any funding by just having an idea, not even the prototype. It really depending on how, what a strong contact you have. So initially, you really need to just raise that fund from trustable friend that you know, and possibly if they're not in your field, but they trust in you. because I haven't had that experience, but I've heard of scenarios that a couple of guys, they have the same expertise, they trust each other, and they shared all the information, and then the other one just decided to have a better network, but the idea was the other guy. And he started he basically stole the idea. I don't know what happened to them, but to give you a short answer, friends and families, close friends and families, and yeah, preferably if they're not in your field, but they believe in you. So once that helps you to really build a prototype, and depending on what you're building, the potential, you could talk to the VCs.
Yeah, I think too, I mean, going to the real private equity or VC side, and more for VCs on kind of startup ideas is, they're pretty tough. I mean, they're going to want to see some, proof that this thing really has some marketability, and you can build a prototype, but, what does the market look like? Who are you going to sell it to? Can you prove some level of marketability of the idea or the product or the service or whatever you're going for? And then the second thing is, how does it discriminate from other competition in the market? And then what are barriers to entry? So if it's truly like a real product idea or some innovative concept, have you patented it? Is it protected in some form or fashion? Or, because why would a VC want to throw, a substantial investment on something that somebody could easily kind of duplicate in the marketplace? So it's tough. I mean, I think a lot of it's going to be, as we said, maybe some sweat equity going in to kind of get off the ground, because I wouldn't tell you that there's not a lot of people that are going to throw monies out just for an idea right away.
I just thought of something, it's not really related to your question, but close enough. My experience with the venture capitalists, there's a fundamental difference between the VCs in the East Coast and the West Coast. The success in the West Coast, unfortunately, has been by far better. That's one of the things that I'm hoping to achieve, is making the environment here more relaxed than the West Coast. With the East Coast VC, when they talk to you as an entrepreneur, they fail. When they talk to you, they ask for exit strategy, business plan, financial. They don't realize you're an entrepreneur, you're a geek. You don't know jack about exit strategy. And frankly, you don't even care about, you don't even care about exit strategy, but they still continue asking. The West Coast VC, however, they get the Rolodex out, they have the team of people they know. All they do, they just listen to you. They do their homework at the end to see whether your product, whether you're talking out of your ass or your product really has the potential. If they feel your product has the potential, they won't even bother asking you about those financial execution, because they know they already know you're not going to be able to do that anyway. So focus on the product, and they get their network of people come to the equation and help you to do a better job. Historically, unfortunately, the West Coast VC have done a much better job than the venture capitalists here.
Two other ideas for you. One is the government has what are called SBIR grants, Small Business Innovation Research Grants. So if you need to do research to develop your product, you may qualify for one of those grants. Second idea is that in the business plan competition last year, one of the teams didn't have a product yet. They needed a prototype. So they used the money they won in the GWU business plan competition to build a prototype. Then they could go out and get investors based on the prototype. A couple of other ideas. You got to be creative.
Yeah, following up on SBIRs, first phase one SBIRs are about 100,000 seed money, and I mean, there's no equity loss. It's basically money to go out and really build a prototype or proof of concept in terms of what your idea is. So that's an excellent idea.
It's an outright grant, just like the business plan competition money. Who's next? Who has the microphone? There it is, right there.
This is actually a question for Elias.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I usually wear glasses, but you're too far, so okay, all right.
Beyond industry knowledge, when you were working at Yuri as a startup, did you get any kind of experience there that helped you to become an entrepreneur?
Oh, absolutely. Not completely management skill, but I saw the founder of the company and basically the management, the way he brought in the management team into the company, I saw, I wasn't really part of the process, but I monitoring the process, how he was able to work with AT&T, who gave us $10 million, and help them to bring other people, execution to CFO, VP of marketing, to execute the company for him.
So would you recommend for students who are, I guess, trying to get experience, and maybe if it's not in the same industry as their idea, it's, you know, I'm not in the SCAS, in the MBA program, so my idea personally that I have is kind of something that I don't think I'll get industry knowledge in, but I need the knowledge in how to get it off the ground and get startup experience. So would you recommend?
Right now, under this market condition, the job market, again, I don't want to be pessimistic, but the job market is really bad right now. Once you graduate, in most of the job they require, they want 10 years experience, not even 2-3 years experience. So if we were talking at a different time of that market condition was better, I was, it also really depending on the product, what you're trying to basically build. It would be great that you can gain, you could afford going to a company, gain some management, communication skills, management skills, and then start your own. But today, it might be better. Besides, most of you guys are single, no responsibility, no financial burden. So it's perfect timing. If you believe in a great product, go for it.
Okay, we have time for one last great question in the back here. If you could just pass it back. I want to get you guys out of here on time.
Scott here, Coffee Pot Story, trivia to follow with me. Scott, did you go back to your companies and agencies that you left to offer your services, or separate but similar?
Great question. That's exactly what I did. I went back, and the first work I got once I left Boeing, first work I got back with the same people I used to work with. And I had this great secret that they needed me back, so I went to NASA. That's where I got the first work. So it's much easier to get your first contract or first work if you're going to service side, the people who knows you, otherwise you're not going to. And there's only people who know me really that well, they were willing to give it. So I went back to this university.
Great. Let's have a hand for our panelists.
Just 30 seconds to close out the evening. One, we've had, I think, a terrific evening here. I've learned a great deal. I hope everybody else found it as useful as I have. One terrific moderator, John Rollins.